Haroon Nefer, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Hetepu. This is Kasank Ma Keperu with another broadcast for you. In this broadcast, I want to talk about how to be like Neo, the One. But before I go into the subject at hand, I want you to hit that like button at the bottom there. Subscribe to my channel if it's your first time watching, and make sure that you share this video with friends, family members, strangers, whoever, so we can get this revolution started. So how to be like Neo, the One. Before I touch base on that, I want to just say a thank you to everyone who has ordered my ebook, The New Kepler Ankh. The response has been so awesome, and the response has been so awesome. So I want to thank you all. And remember, those who ordered it will be getting 2 special gifts. And I believe the first one was sent out by one of my wives earlier this week. If you haven't gotten it, just hang on. It'll be there. It's probably going by snail mail. The second free gift will be coming in about 2 weeks, and less than 2 weeks. And then on February 1st, you'll get the ebook itself, which will be phenomenal. It'll definitely teach you how to be like Neo and more. All right. So I want to just give it a little bit of time so the Magi's can get into the chat. All set. Tepu, glad to see you. And I want to start out by recognizing a very important person that you guys should know about, and it's Benjamin Banneker. I just actually purchased his book from the library, and he was a phenomenal person. He was an inventor, astronomer. He was one of the individuals that mapped out the Washington Monument, and he created a clock and an almanac, so many different things he did. And this is, I think it was in the 1800s during slavery, and he was a free person. He was free, and he was educated. He was taught. Well, he educated himself, but there was a white woman, I believe it was his grandmother, who educated him, and he went on to really just read up on astronomy, clock building. He had a variety of interests. So a very, very important person. If you haven't gotten that opportunity, you should read about him, Benjamin Banneker. And why am I bringing this up? All right. So I have something for anyone who gets this answer correct. Why am I bringing this important individual up? Why? The first person with the correct answer in my Gmail account wins a gift. And my Gmail account is kasank@gmail.com. So send me that. And there's been a number of books published about him and his life, which was extraordinary. He was into bugs and insects early on. He lived by himself, and he also had like a bit of a drinking problem, but which didn't impair him from doing really just great things. All right. So get a book, read up on him. He's an extraordinary individual, and email me if you have the answer to our quiz. Like, why am I bringing him up in a random fashion? Okay, so let's get on. Who's that in here? That's Suan Hetepu. All right, so we have the Magi's coming in, and don't forget to hit that like button. All right, we want to get the likes up so we can get the message out there. And I want all of you Magi out there to proselytize, to become advocates of these teachings, because these teachings are your teachings. Once you learn these techniques, this will be with you throughout life, and this will serve you throughout your entire life. And these are things that you don't rely upon when you need some money or you need some material resources like a car or a house. these magical techniques can be used for almost anything, mending your relationships, helping the world to be a better place. So think about that. I want you to keep that in mind so that you don't have selfish endeavors and just like using this just for your own purpose. The idea here is to change the energy vibration of the planet so that we can shift to a better parallel reality where we don't have this ruling elite in power, corrupting the minds of people and hoarding wealth and resources. Okay, it's very important because the revolution is not done by military might, not done by political might, not done by economic might. It is done by changing the vibration of the planet. How does the vibration of the planet change? By looking at the man or woman in the mirror. That's how it starts. That's what it's all about. So I don't vote. I don't advocate that political power is going to be the end all and be all of existence. But listen, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. But what I'm saying at the end of the day, rely on your magic, your power, your spiritual being. All right. You have incredible power. And if you use it wisely, you can benefit yourself and others around you. All right. So think about that because, you know, the reason why a lot of these archaeologists and Egyptologists, they'll go to Kemet, Egypt, and they'll read the Medu Neter. And because they use the Rosetta Stone to interpret the Medu Neter. And they equate things to Egypt or Kemet from a very Western perspective, which is why they use terms like pagan society, primitive, and things of that nature. So I want you to just think that the level that they were on was such on a high level consciously that these individuals, these so-called people of science, men and women of science, could not comprehend what they were seeing. So consequently, they did the only thing they could do, which say, oh, this is just primitive people, primitive individuals, But our ancestors were dealing with high science, high spirituality that we may not understand for another 50 to 100 years. Keep that in mind. That's very deep. All right. So these principles that I'm teaching, and I will start teaching on February 1st after the new Kepler Ankh comes out, comes from not only Kemet, Egypt, but from Atlantis, the lost city of Atlantis, because they dealt really heavily in crystal magic. So I'm going to be relying on that, and I'm going to be teaching some of that to you so that you'll enhance your power, because a crystal can be programmed like a computer chip to magnify your energy if you do it right. Okay. So we have experimented and done inventions, which is one of the reasons why I bring up Benjamin Banneker. He's an inventor in the physical realm, but we have not broken into the metaphysical realm because there are things such as opening portals, projecting yourself to different planets and dimensions. So we need to start looking at all that. And this is real. This is tangible. So let's get on to the subject at hand, because I'm just kind of like just waiting for more people to come in. Is that Ishmael Hetepu? So how to be like Neo, the one. Now there's a hidden message in there. When you say Neo, who was Neo in the movie The Matrix? He was not just Keanu Reeves, an awesome individual, actor, but but he was the one. Now, what does that mean exactly? It does not mean that he was the chosen one. It doesn't mean, like the movie alludes to, that he was the one that could manipulate the Matrix, and therefore he was the one to take down the Matrix. So he was the one, because there's always this Messiah complex Western society has, where there will come a Messiah, there'll come the one, they'll become the Krishna, the Christ will come. But we rely so much on that, and that's just a kind of like a manipulative way of taking away your power. So when they say Neo is the one, no, he's not the chosen one. When they say Neo is the one, no, he's not the one that can manipulate the matrix, and everybody couldn't. Because everyone in this fourth dimensional holographic experience can manipulate the matrix. But why is Neo called the one? If you understand why Neo is called the one, then you will understand the key to your power. What's that old joke? The Dalai Lama goes to the pizza place and he says, I'll have one with everything. I think I got that wrong, but it's something like that. So why was Neo called the one? I'm going to make this video short. Short but sweet. Get my notes. In the movie The Matrix, the reason he was called the one, and this is the secret, is because there is only the one. That the experience that you're having now is only you. It is a subjective experience. There is no other beings in this experience. You are the one. There is no others besides you. Remember before in other videos I talked about you brought yourself into being. I was alone, one, the one, and from the one became two, and therefore when the one became two, I could now interact with myself and look back upon myself. Well, when you walk down the street, like Neil was walking down the street and saw the girl in the red dress, what he didn't understand was that those individuals in the Matrix were just avatars. They weren't real people because there was only him, the one consciousness. And in this experience, there's only you, the one consciousness. There are not separate individuals everywhere that you're interacting with. No, no, there is just you. And when you understand that basic fundamental truth, it's a game changer. Everything changes. From that perspective and from that point, you can now start to utilize your power to manipulate the matrix. Because when you understand that the matrix is nothing but waves of energy, or as the matrix says, information, and you pull from that code one reality among an infinite number of realities, and then you interact with it. So the minute that you have a belief, you then call that belief into existence. Because you are the one. When I was very young, I noticed something. I did a strong meditation technique. And even at that young, I was still bringing from my past life as a priest in ancient Kemet knowledge. And I remember walking down the street and my mother was holding my hand. And I looked at her and I said, why is everybody looking at me? And she was like, it's just your imagination. But it wasn't. People were looking at me. And it was because it was an awakening to me that reality was trying to communicate to me to let me know that these individuals were nothing more than avatars. So they were letting me know that it's not real. That I had awakened to a fundamental truth. And because I discovered that truth, I was able to see reality for what it was. That these individuals were nothing more than representations or avatars, and that they weren't real. And when you start to understand this, a wonderful thing happens. Reality now starts to communicate with you. You now start to interact with yourself. You talk back to yourself. I was sitting here and I was saying to myself before I began this video, what's the best way to talk about this subject? And I just saw a commercial for Maya Cinemas. Maya Cinemas. That is phenomenal. That is extraordinary. Because we know that the movies, the cinema is an illusion. It's just, it's smoke and mirrors. It's Hollywood. And Maya is an illusion. Kind of overkill in the name, but think about that. And not only was I thinking about how to explain this to you, I was actually saying, well, I've got to talk about Maya, and that's when the thing of Maya came on TV, which we call synchronicity, which really is my consciousness communicating back to me, which as a child, seeing these individuals staring at me was only my consciousness commanding these avatars to look back at me and say, yes, you're right. It's all an illusion. The first step into being Neo is that you have to reject reality. No matter how real it seems, you got to say, it's all an illusion. It's all Maya. It's not real. When you accept that truism, then the paradigm shift begins to happen. The next thing you've got to do is you have to engage in observation to be Neo. This is the way you'll see the glitches in the Matrix. Like Neo saw the cat, but he didn't think nothing of it until Trinity said, wait, no, you've honed in on something. You've honed in on something very important. And as a child, when I saw everyone looking at me, that was a glitch in the Matrix. That was the glitch. Ki Hatepu. El Glass Harun Nefer. You need to look for the glitches. Why is that important? Because you need reference experience. Because that's going to build your faith. And that'll get you to realize something. This is a really good movie. Very scary movie too. It's based on a true story. And in the movie, this reporter is talking to the spiritualist. And this reporter says, why are these spirits coming to me? And the reporter says, because you noticed them. And they noticed that you noticed. When you awaken to this truth and you reject reality and you start observing, then your consciousness will awaken. And it will start talking to you. And it's going to do it in a very unconventional way. And you're going to have to be on alert for it. Got a disturbing call from a friend, said that he was watching TV. And all of a sudden, he saw himself on TV. Then this person who looked like him started talking to him through the TV. He said it really like rocked his world. And he was asking me, what was that about? I said, well, you come to the realization that it's all an illusion. You're in the Matrix, and it's your consciousness trying to communicate with you and tell you what time it is. Do you understand? When you engage in this observation, you're willing to reject reality, you become self-conscious. Let me say that again. You become self-conscious or self-aware. Self, meaning the indwelling intelligence, who you are, consciousness. You become aware that you are only consciousness. And as such, then you know that there is only one. There's just you having this experience. And then when you start to understand that, then you ping, what I call is you ping reality, and reality pings you back. And it says, yes, can I help you? And this is where the dialogue begins. You can say, I need an answer to certain things. This is where you can ask for things. I need $1,000 by Tuesday. I want this house. I want this car. I want to fall in love. I want to mate. And since you are a God man, God woman, it has no choice but to respond and grant you your wish. Why? Because you understand that it's all Maya. It's not real. And because you've observed and you build your faith. So you know with certainty that it's not real. And because you know for certainty it's not real and it's only you, consciousness, then you know that you can pull from the matrix, the wave of information, any reality that you choose. And make it come to fruition and make it be a reality that you can interact with. See, you're having an experience right now because you've been conditioned by society to have this experience, but it's not an experience that you want. So you have to learn now to reject everything that you have been taught, which is why in the Matrix, they told Neo, usually someone your age, we don't pull them out the Matrix because they can't handle it. And when the friend called me up and he was disturbed by what he was seeing on TV, and I've heard this many times, it rocks your world. And you go through 3 phases. You go through fear, because you realize you are alone and it's only you. Then you go through acceptance, and then you go to joy because you realize, well, hell, I can have what I want. Let me master this thing. Let me study to be a magi, and let me manipulate the matrix and have what I want. There you go. You can walk down the street and have a billboard sign light up with your name on it. If you correctly ask reality to do so. Because nothing really exists. It only exists because you told it exists. But if you accept a new reality, then everything changes before you. Like, for example, I do not exist in the same space-time continuum as you do. I don't. You think I do, but I don't. But we've all been lied to it's called time dilation. And it's a real phenomenon. We've all been lied to and told that we all live in the same space-time continuum. We do not. Because there are those who can manipulate the matrix and they're living in a totally different framework. And that's a hard concept to get your head around. But I want you to think about this deeply, because you've been fed that everything is real and that you have no control over the outside world, and there is an outside world, there is an external world. And because you've been fed that, the universe has no choice but to comply. So you have limited your ability to do anything. You remember that the character in the Matrix, the evil guy, who said, I want to go back in the Matrix and not remember anything because ignorance is bliss. And there are a lot of us who are existing and don't know the reality of what's going on. Because society constantly has us depend on external things for our salvation. And it also, coupled with that, it has us emotionally tied to everything. It talks about, yes, indulge your emotions. Emotions are good. Act upon every whim that you have. And you take their beliefs and their ideas and you couple that with the emotional aspect, you manifest their reality, the Illuminati's reality, the cabal. Instead of you taking a step back and rejecting it and saying, none of this crap is real. The only thing is real is the experience, and I am consciousness, and I'm going to become self-aware to the fact that I now know that I can communicate with reality and have reality give me answers and give me things that I need when I need them, because it's abundance. All I have to do is focus on it and dwell on that thought. If you dwell long enough upon thoughts or beliefs, you will see that people around you they'll start to read your mind, is what you think. You'll be saying, John, I can't believe you said that. I was just thinking that. Wow, I can't believe you just gave me this because I was just thinking that. That's the reality responding to you. That is no coincidence. You're doing it. Get that coincidence thing out your head. It's called synchronicity. How does synchronicity happen? When you dwell upon an idea, empowered with an emotion, it manifests from the energy, the matrix or the information field into one of many scenarios. The reality communicates back to you. It either grants you your wish or it gives you answers and wisdom and knowledge to things that you may need to help you in this life. It can do so by somebody coming up to you out of the blue and saying, you know, that test you're working on, you're going to do great today. And you can be like, what? One, who are you? And how did you know I was going to take a test? And then that person will say, I am you, the observer. When I first embarked on this and I learned that there was only the one, me, I was scared. It was like, so you mean that I'm alone? I was like, whoa, that was deep, scary. I felt seriously lonely. Didn't know where to turn. Then came the acceptance and said, okay. I made a soul contract. I made an agreement to experience this. Now, as my king, my high priest would say, when we would complain about our destiny, he would say, listen, you're on a ship and you're headed to a destination. The destination is your destiny. Now, you have to be on that ship. That's just how it is. Now, but you get to decide if you're going to travel first class or coach. Think about that. So you get to decide the quality of your life. You could learn magic and be a magi, or you can be like that guy in the Matrix and say, ignorance is bliss, put me back in the Matrix and wipe my memory so I don't know who I am, that I'm God man, God woman. God doesn't care which one you choose. God will allow you to live like all the other individuals in the world, Sahu people. Sahu means the animal, because you operate based on your emotions, or that you choose a divine path of being a magi and being Neo. I mean, God would prefer you to be Neo and choose the divine path, but God will never interfere with your choice. You have a free will. God will say, this is your destiny. You can choose to follow it or not. That is up to you, but you must accept the consequences of your decisions. So it goes back to the Matrix and Neo. Red pill, blue pill, which one do you want to take? God's not going to interfere with your decision. Or I should say, you will not interfere with your own decision that you've made. So the secret to being Neo is understanding there's only the one. Not that you are the one, because we all can manipulate the Matrix. God doesn't play favorites. God is no respecter of a person. But in this scenario, in this reality, one of an infinite number of realities, it's just you experiencing it so that you can spiritually grow. God needs you to experience this reality, whether you feel it's good or bad. And if you say, well, it's kicking my ass, life is kicking my ass, this is terrible. Well, you're defining it and placing a label on it, because nothing truly is good or bad, because you are a man. You are beyond pain and pleasure. You will exist for eternity. And when I mean eternity, you cannot even imagine eternity. So this little blip of a life in a large scheme of things, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Take a moment, if you guys get an opportunity, feel free to donate to the channel. I would appreciate that. Keep the information flowing. Reflections in the Glass, Hetepu, Third Presence, Namaste, Michael, Hetepu. So I want you to think about that. Now, my friend that called me has gone on to have even more incredible experiences. Now, there's a whole community of people who are experiencing this, whether you know it or not. But it's under the category of what they call the Mandela effect. They're seeing that reality is changing before their eyes, and they don't understand it, so they're trying to research it and explain it. But they don't understand that there's only the one. So there's no outside force manipulating it and doing it. It's you trying to communicate a message to yourself, which is why you'll see 1111 or 33 or 22. What does this mean, Kasank? I keep seeing these numbers. I don't know. You're God. Tell me. What are you trying to say to yourself? That's a very low level of form of communication that you're trying to communicate with yourself. Once you start to understand that the truth of your existence, and you really understand the core of your being, you're going to have strange encounters. You may encounter your doppelganger. A person looks just like you. And in this video, I'm going to send to those who've ordered my ebook, The New Capital Ankh, I talk about how in the parallel reality, my alternate self contacted me. I didn't think that was possible, but he did. He reached out and contacted me and he said, listen, I need you to do something. And I was like, whoa, this is deep. This is deep. I've heard of a lot of things, but I've never heard of your parallel self or alternate self in a parallel reality reaching out to contact you. Whoa, this is deep. This is so cool. Because you start to realize there's no limitations. Everything you've been told has been a lie. And it's when you are liberated and when you learn that you can control the matrix, it's joy. Because you now realize that you have the power. It's back in your hands. And with that, I just want you to understand how really wonderful this life can be if you approach it from the right perspective. If you go around thinking and believing what you've been told, then it's going to be hell for you. But if you start to accept the truth, which even now scientists who quantum physicists are now discovering, that it's all about possibilities. In other words, what they say is anything is possible, but is it probable? Okay, so they boil it down to that because they know that we're living in a energetic reality that responds to the observer. That responds to the observer. Something our ancestors knew thousands of years ago, they're only discovering it now. Look at that. Ain't that something? Isn't that something? The truth crushed to the earth shall rise again. Oser, buried by his evil brother Seth, is resurrected. The king is resurrected. Truth, with the help of Set, Isis, rises. And with that, I just want to say thank you. And remember the little contest here, if you can figure out why I'm bringing up this wonderful individual, Benjamin Banneker, why I'm talking about this book in the very beginning of the video. If you can answer that question of why I'm bringing it up, email me, kasonk@gmail.com. First person with the correct answer will win a little prize. And so this is Kasonk Ma'at Keperu, son of Tehuti and Ma'at. Till my next video, don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. Amen Ra.